If sex is supposed to be this effortless instinct, why are so many people quietly convinced their body is the problem?
Because everyone is comparing their real life to the most exaggerated version of desire imaginable.
And the craziest part is that normal is often mistaken for broken.
So what if the thing making people anxious is not their sex life, but the stories they were sold about it?
That is where this gets interesting, because the truth is a lot more human than people expect.
Let's get into it.
People really think everybody else is having way more sex than they are.
Of course they do, because everyone is lying with confidence.
The average is basically once a week, which is hilariously unsexy.
That is so normal it almost sounds disappointing.
But that's the point. Normal is not the same thing as broken.
Wait, so people are comparing themselves to porn and TV chaos?
Pretty much, and then they think their body is malfunctioning.
That script is poison, honestly.
Right, because real sex is slower, messier, and way more human.
Also, way less cinematic than people want to admit.
And the wild part is most couples are not having some crazy marathon schedule.
Which means the anxiety is often invented in your head.
Exactly. And then that anxiety starts killing the actual connection.
Okay, but the pain piece is where people really get trapped.
Sex is not supposed to hurt, and if it does, something needs attention.
So it is not just like people being dramatic.
No, sometimes it is lubrication, sometimes it is foreplay, sometimes it is deeper.
Foreplay being treated like optional content is such a bad plan.
Thank you, because some people act like it is a bonus DLC.
And the vagina literally changes shape and people still rush in?
Men love speed when the situation requires geology.
That is insane, but fair.
It can take around 20 minutes for the body to really be ready.
So the issue is not desire alone, it is biology too.
Exactly. And lubricant is not some shameful emergency kit.
That should be printed on billboards, honestly.
Please, because it makes things better for almost everybody.
And if it still hurts after all that, then what?
Then you look at hormones, pelvic floor issues, endometriosis, the whole picture.
The pelvic floor is the thing people weirdly know least about.
And it affects everything. Urination, pain, orgasm, erection, icky.
Wait, men have one too?
Yes, and many men react like they just discovered electricity.
I mean, the body has been keeping secrets.
A tight or weak pelvic floor can absolutely mess with sexual function.
Even from sitting all day?
Yes, because the muscles stop moving normally and stay clenched.
So the office chair is basically doing character damage.
It is not helping. Let us leave it there.
That COVID sitting shift must have been a nightmare.
It was with more urgency, more discomfort, more people noticing something was off.
And people would rather blame themselves than their habits.
Always, because shame is easier than diagnosis.
The heart thing is where this gets genuinely scary.
Erectile dysfunction can show up years before heart disease does.
That is such a massive signal, and people treat it like an awkward footnote.
Exactly. The penis is not just being difficult, it can be giving you information.
The body is basically sending an email nobody opens.
And then everyone acts surprised when the inbox explodes.
So doctors should be asking about this way more often.
They should, because relationship stress and depression can hang off it too.
Which means it is never just one problem.
Rarely, it is usually a whole system situation.
I also love that they distinguish spontaneous desire from responsive desire.
That part is huge, because not everyone gets turned on like a movie scene.
Movies have ruined everybody's internal software.
Completely. And then people think they are supposed to be instantly hungry.
Responsive desire is basically warm up first and then see what happens?
Yes, and that is normal, especially in long-term relationships.
Which is probably why so many couples drift and never notice.
They do, because nobody names the drift early enough.
And then suddenly the relationship feels like a quiet emergency.
Exactly, and the fix starts with talking outside the bedroom.
In the bedroom is a terrible location for a serious talk.
It is basically guaranteed to go badly.
So car rides and walks are better because nobody is cornered?
Yes, and you have to use I statements instead of blame.
Which is annoying because blaming is so emotionally convenient.
Convenient, yes. Well, absolutely not.
And if the couple is already dead in the water?
Then ask how important sex actually is to both people.
That is a brutal but honest question.
Because sometimes the relationship is strong enough that sex becomes a project.
And sometimes it is not worth the war?
Sometimes, and that answer is not shameful.
The testosterone part gets interesting because everyone wants a quick fix.
But more testosterone is not the answer if levels are already normal.
So the body is not a bucket you keep pouring into.
Exactly. Receptors can already be saturated.
Then what actually helps?
Sleep, resistance training, and not living in constant stress.
Sleep is the cheat code again.
It always is, and people keep ignoring it because it is boring.
Boring is always the thing that works.
Also, too much endurance training can backfire through cortisol.
So the super fit guy running himself into the ground may be hurting himself?
Yes, health is not automatically more miles.
The gym bro economy is in trouble then.
A little, but balance is the point.
And diet matters because testosterone comes from cholesterol pathways?
Right, so extremely low-fat diets can hurt hormone production.
Which is annoying because people make wellness into a religion.
Then they delete fats and wonder why everything feels off.
The decline in testosterone and sperm quality is the part that sounds bigger than one person.
It is, B, because inactivity, metabolic disease, and environment all stack together.
Microplastics are now in the chat too.
They are, along with endocrine-disrupting chemicals.
And the advice is basically control what you can.
Yes, glass over plastic when possible, and avoid heating food in plastic.
Which sounds small until you realize tiny things are usually the whole game.
Exactly, and a lot of these issues are cumulative, not dramatic.
That might be the hardest thing for people to accept.
Because everyone wants one villain, but bodies are messier than that.
Bodies are honestly chaotic little startups.
Terrible management, very high maintenance.
But it is kind of relieving that so much of this is knowable.
Yes, and that is why the embarrassment has to go.
If people could just say the thing earlier, so much damage disappears.
Exactly, and that is the real takeaway.
We should probably leave people with that before we keep spiraling.
Fair, because we could stay here forever talking about broken myths.
Next time we should get into what people are doing wrong in real life.
And how to actually fix the stuff without making it weird.
That is where it gets really useful.
Episode 2 gets into the myths, habits, and surprises people never expect.
The wild part is how normal the awkward stuff actually is.
Right, and people think normal means effortless, which is insane.
Yeah, like everyone else is just performing surgery in silk sheets.
Meanwhile, most people are just tired and confused.
That once-a-week stat is honestly the first myth killer.
Because people assume everybody else is basically living in a montage.
Exactly, and then they feel defective for having a real life.
And once shame enters, the whole thing starts collapsing.
What I liked is that she kept saying quality beats quantity.
That matters, because bad sex on repeat is not some achievement.
Nobody needs a leaderboard for mediocre intimacy.
Imagine bragging about frequency when everybody is secretly miserable.
And the pain part felt huge, because people normalize that way too easily.
Yeah, the second someone says it hurts, the conversation should slow down.
Not speed up, not force it, just actually listen.
Exactly, because pain is information, not a personality trait.
The expansion thing is also fascinating, like the body is literally preparing.
And it takes time, which is probably the part people hate hearing.
Men hear time and suddenly become entrepreneurs.
Always optimizing the worst possible moment.
But it is a real educational gap because nobody teaches any of this.
Sex ed gives you condoms and panic, then sends you away.
Condoms, consent, and a vague warning about disease.
And then we act shocked when porn becomes the teacher.
That part is rough because porn is not a reference manual.
If it were, half the population would be deeply misinformed engineers.
Deeply misinformed engineers is crazy.
But the communication piece felt even bigger than the biology.
Yeah, because silence turns small issues into identity crises.
And then one weird moment becomes a whole story in your head.
That spiral is so real, especially when nobody names what is happening.
Which is why the open-ended question thing is so smart.
Like, what are you not telling me instead of what is wrong with you?
Exactly, and that changes the whole temperature of the room.
Also, don't do it in the bedroom right after sex, please.
That is not a feedback form. That is emotional arson.
Emotional arson is a savage phrase.
But it is true because timing can wreck an honest conversation.
I also liked the point that not every relationship needs the same sex frequency.
That was important because people get trapped comparing invisible lives.
Everybody thinks their relationship is underperforming compared to some fake average.
And then the fake average is usually just insecurity wearing a suit.
Insecurity wearing a suit is such a brutal line.
The desire part was probably the most useful distinction, though.
Spontaneous versus responsive desire should be common knowledge.
Because people think if they are not instantly turned on, something is broken.
Meanwhile, the body is just saying, warm up first.
Human beings are not microwaves, unfortunately.
That calendar advice sounded weird until she explained the psychology.
It sounds unromantic until you realize routine is sometimes the romance.
Also, expectation kills a lot of desire before anything even starts.
Right, because pressure arrives before pleasure does.
The hormone part made it feel less mystical and more practical.
Especially testosterone, because people talk about it like it is one thing.
And she said women have more testosterone than estrogen, which people never expect.
That alone should change how people think about female desire.
But the stress point is maybe the biggest one because life kneecaps libido.
Chronic stress is basically the libido tax nobody votes for.
The libido tax is evil.
And then people try to solve a stress problem with hormones only.
Which is why the testosterone injection question was so important.
More is not automatically better, which is a very underrated sentence.
Yeah, because if the problem is not low testosterone, you are just chasing noise.
I liked the sleep piece too, because that sounded almost boringly powerful.
The most unsexy fix is usually the real one.
Sleep, lift weights, stop living like a ghost, and suddenly chemistry improves.
The endurance exercise warning was interesting because extremes always have a catch.
Right. Even the healthiest-looking habits can backfire if they are too much.
Turns out becoming a marathon machine is not a universal aphrodisiac.
That should be on a t-shirt nobody buys.
The food angle was also more grounded than people expect.
Healthy fats matter, and the body does not run on vibes alone.
Sadly, the body is not powered by manifestation.
Though that would make grocery shopping much easier.
And then the bigger decline question felt kind of scary, honestly.
Testosterone and sperm quality dropping is not a small cultural detail.
Sedentary life, metabolic issues, environmental chemicals, it all stacks.
That is the annoying part because nobody wants a single villain.
Yeah, it is not one demon, it is like 12 small ones.
A committee of bad habits.
A committee of bad habits is exactly what it feels like.
And the plastic conversation was good because it stayed practical.
Like you cannot control everything, but you can reduce exposure.
Small choices matter when they are repeated for years.
That is really the theme of the whole episode, actually.
Yeah, less shame, more noticing, more talking, more adjusting.
And less pretending everybody else has unlocked secret adult skills.
Because most people are just improvising with better lighting.
That is such a good way to put it.
And if people remember one thing, it should be that symptoms are signals.
Especially when those symptoms touch sex, because people ignore them too long.
Exactly, and that is the real takeaway.
We should probably leave people with that before we keep spiraling.
Fair, because we could stay here forever talking about broken myths.
Next time, we should get into what people are doing wrong in real life.
And how to actually fix the stuff without making it weird.
That is where it gets really useful.
Episode 2 gets into the myths, habits, and surprises people never expect.
The wild part is how many people think they are the exception.
Everyone thinks their relationship is uniquely broken, which is honestly hilarious and tragic.
And then the data comes in like, no, you are just human.
Exactly. Once a week being the average should calm a lot of people down.
It should, but people hear average and still think they are failing.
Because we have all been brainwashed by fake movie sex.
Yeah, the 5-minute cinematic miracle with perfect lighting and zero awkwardness.
Real sex is usually more like logistics, nerves, and someone asking where the charger is.
And then everybody is pretending that is not part of intimacy.
That is why the pain conversation matters so much.
Because people assume pain is normal if they have heard it enough times.
which is insane because pain is usually a signal, not a personality trait.
And it can be lubrication, foreplay, hormones, or pelvic floor dysfunction.
The pelvic floor piece is the one people really do not understand.
Men especially act like their body ends at the waist.
They are like, wait, I have muscles down there too?
And those muscles affect urination, erections, ejaculation, and orgasm.
That is such a massive range of stuff for one muscle group.
It also makes sitting all day sound way more suspicious.
It really does, especially when people sit for 10 hours and call it normal.
Which is basically modern life for half the internet.
And then they wonder why their body feels tight and not cooperative.
The crazy part is the heart link through erectile dysfunction.
Yeah, that part is not just awkward, it is medically important.
Smaller arteries show the problem earlier, so the penis can basically complain first.
Your body really said use me as the warning system.
Brutal but true.
Which makes the shame around sexual symptoms so dangerous.
People wait years because they think it is embarrassing instead of clinical.
And meanwhile, the issue may be getting worse in the background.
That is why doctors asking the right questions actually matters.
But most people do not even expect that conversation in a checkup.
No, they expect blood pressure and maybe a quick nod at everything else.
Right, not a full audit of your sex life.
Though honestly, some people probably need one.
For sure, because the myths are doing way too much damage.
The most common one might be that everyone else is having way more sex.
And the relief in hearing once a week is basically the norm is huge.
But then people turn it into a scorecard anyway.
That is why quality matters more than raw frequency.
Basically, stop bragging with numbers and start asking if it is actually good.
Exactly. Bad sex 10 times is not a flex.
It is just overtime with disappointment.
That is horrible and weirdly accurate.
The foreplay part is where a lot of men still completely miss the point.
They rush like the body is a vending machine.
Insert coin, receive instant everything.
But the body needs time to arouse, lubricate, and actually respond.
And that response is different for different people, which is the whole point.
Which also means lubricant should not be treated like a failure symbol.
That was one of the best parts, honestly, lubricant for everybody.
Yes, normalize making things easier and less painful.
If it reduces pain and increases enjoyment, why are people acting precious about it?
Because human beings love suffering if it feels traditional.
That is actually a terrible and perfect explanation.
And then there is the communication problem, which is the real relationship killer.
Because nobody was taught how to say what they want without making it a war.
And people wait until they are already resentful, which makes everything worse.
The idea that this is a one-time conversation is totally fake.
Multiple talks, lower stakes. Outside the bedroom, that actually makes sense.
Because nobody wants feedback mid-scene like it is a performance review.
Imagine getting notes during sex. I would simply leave the planet.
Noted. Too much thigh, not enough soul.
Oh my God, stop.
But the deeper thing is insecurity turns into silence, and silence turns into distance.
And distance turns into the weird new normal nobody likes talking about.
That frog in the pan idea is uncomfortable because it is so accurate.
Relationships do not explode, they erode.
That is the line, honestly.
And fixing it means accepting that desire is not always spontaneous.
Which is where people get tripped up, because they want lightning every time.
Responsive desire is real and it is normal.
So basically, warm-up is not a failure. It is the system.
Exactly. The calendar homework idea sounds unsexy but brilliant.
It removes the pressure to perform on command.
And it lets intimacy exist without immediately forcing a verdict.
That is such a cleaner way to think about it.
Then you get into hormones, and people immediately jump to testosterone as magic.
Which is exactly what dudes do, of course.
More testosterone, more everything, problem solved, apparently.
But if levels are normal, more is not necessarily better.
Sleep seems like the most underrated fix in the whole conversation.
Less than 6 hours can tank testosterone by a real amount.
And people act like sleep is optional while wondering why their body is off.
You cannot run on chaos and caffeine forever.
Some people absolutely try, though.
Resistance training also feels like a much more grounded answer than supplements.
Right, and extreme endurance can sometimes push things the wrong way.
So the marathon grind is not always the masculinity cheat code.
Shocking news for men with expensive running shoes.
That was cold.
Food matters too, especially because people forget hormones are built from actual inputs.
The fat conversation is important because people go too low and call it discipline.
And then wonder why their body is not functioning like a robot.
The decline in sperm quality over decades is the part that gets very real, very fast.
Sedentary life, metabolic issues, and environmental chemicals all pile on.
Which makes this bigger than just one person drinking from one bottle.
Exactly, but small controls still matter because exposure adds up.
So the metal mug people were not just being annoying, they were being strategic.
For once, the wellness person might have a point.
The best takeaway is that sexual health is just health.
And the moment you stop treating it like a secret, you can actually fix things.
That is the whole game, really.
Yeah, and most people are far less broken than they think.
Next time, I want to get into the stuff people do every day that quietly makes it worse.
And the fixes that sound uncomfortable at first but actually work.
The good kind of uncomfortable, unfortunately.
Episode 2 is where it gets practical and a little messy.
Wait, once a week is the average and people still think they are failing?
We are all comparing ourselves to a fake highlight reel, basically.
A porn script and a real human body are not the same software.
And that mismatch makes people think they are broken when they are not.
The wild part is, nobody is even taught what normal looks like.
They get condoms, consent, and a lot of awkward silence.
That is not exactly a robust curriculum.
No, and then the internet becomes the sex ed teacher.
Which is honestly a disaster for anybody with anxiety.
Because now every tiny difference feels like a medical emergency.
The pelvic floor part surprised me the most, because men barely know it exists.
Men hear that and act like they just discovered a hidden room in the house.
Bro, you have muscles there too, calm down.
And if those muscles get too tight, everything gets weird fast.
Urination, pain, erections, orgasm, all of it can get affected.
Yeah, it is not some niche women-only topic.
Sitting all day sounding like a quiet villain is crazy to me.
Modern life really does have your body clenching for no reason.
So the fix is not magic, it is movement and coordination?
Exactly. And people hate that answer because it is unsexy.
Fitness advice is always so rude like that.
The heart disease angle was another one that hit hard.
Yeah, erectile dysfunction can show up before chest pain.
That means the body is basically texting you a warning.
And most people would rather ignore the text forever.
Because it feels embarrassing, but medically it is useful information.
I also liked the distinction between pain and normal discomfort.
Pain is not supposed to be the price of entry.
That should be printed on a billboard somewhere.
And lubrication is not optional for some mystical elite group.
It is for everybody, which is a very funny truth.
Like, why are we acting like extra slip is controversial?
The timing piece was also fascinating, because bodies need time to catch up.
And people keep rushing straight past the part that actually matters.
Men do love sprinting into a marathon they never trained for.
That is such an obnoxiously accurate sentence.
The communication part is where everything either gets better or implodes.
And it usually implodes because nobody says the thing early enough.
People would rather slowly suffer than have one awkward conversation.
A tragic amount of human behavior is just avoiding a 5-minute talk.
I liked the idea that intimacy should be scheduled without making it feel clinical.
Right, because anticipation can help, but pressure can kill everything.
The calendar becoming foreplay is actually kind of wild.
It sounds unromantic until you realize routine saves a lot of relationships.
And desire itself is not one thing, which people really need to hear.
Spontaneous desire and responsive desire are both normal.
So sometimes the spark arrives late, and that does not mean the fire is dead.
Exactly, and that distinction alone could save a lot of shame.
The hormone piece makes it even messier because stress can crush libido.
And then everyone blames attraction when the real issue is burnout.
We really do try to solve everything with testosterone like it is a cheat code.
More is not always better, which ruins so many fantasy solutions.
Sleep and resistance training sounded much less glamorous, but way more real.
Yeah, boring habits beat dramatic hacks most of the time.
The body is annoyingly committed to fundamentals.
And the environmental stuff is a reminder that this is bigger than one person.
Plastic, Chemicals, sedentary life, it all stacks up slowly.
Which is depressing, but also empowering if you focus on what you can control.
That is the real theme for me. Less shame, more signal.
And if people get that, they stop hiding the problems that could actually be treated.
Next episode, we should get into the stuff that quietly wrecks the signal.
Oh, that one is going to get uncomfortable in the best way.
Good, because comfort has clearly not been helping anybody.
All right, let us leave it there and keep the chaos for part 2.
Episode 2, we go deeper into the everyday habits and fixes.